Hello everybody, it's Leslie from Wall to Wall Vinyl, and tonight for Tutorial Tuesdays we're going to be doing wristlet keychains. So I like to do things a little bit different with these, so let me show you what we're going to be using. First of all, these are 2-inch hardboard cutout keychains. I got them off of Amazon. They came in a big pack, and I will tell you I will share the link with these. You'll also need some E6000. I find that it works better than like hot glue, anything else for this. This works really, really well. Then also you will need sublimation lanyard material, and I will share the link for that as well. And then a tool. You can use a rubber mallet. However, I have found that this works much, much better. And I got this off of Amazon as well. And then lanyard keychain hardware. So I actually got a kit with the material, with the pliers in them, as well as it came with several different colors of lanyard clips. Mine that I'm doing tonight are US Marine lanyard clips, and so I'm going to use this fun kind of rustic bronze for tonight's tutorial. And then of course a design that's done for lanyard type material. The design I'll be using tonight came from me at Wall to Wall Vinyl. You can find that on Shopify as well as Etsy if you search Wall to Wall Vinyl. If you're watching this on YouTube, please join our Facebook group, Wall to Wall Vinyl Designs by Leslie Shear. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please go and follow me on YouTube as well as TikTok and Instagram. Remember tonight, if you're watching, to include the hashtag wall to wall, or if you're watching it after the fact, please include the hashtag repeat. That just helps me to kind of monitor when people are seeing things. Also, for the first 48 hours, you get a free design after the tutorials if you tune in for within the first 48 hours. So once I see that you've commented those two keywords, then I will send you a link to a free design. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the heat press. Just unhook you from the charger. And I will be using my clamshell heat press tonight. And with these, this is a nice, a really nice size, because you can do it all in one sitting. You don't need a board or anything to stabilize that. After doing a lanyard, you could use a stabilizer board, and I've talked in previous tutorials about how to use those. We're going to start off with our round keychains. And one thing I wanted to show you, with any of the majority of your hard blank, or your hardwood blanks, they have a film over them. So if you look carefully, you can see the edge, and you just need to peel that off. That's just to protect the hardwood during the cutting process. So sometimes you'll get blanks that look almost like they're dirty. It's just simply the protective layer, the protective film that's put on it. So that needs to come off before you press it. Otherwise, you'll get a really dull, blurry image. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that on all three of these. These work really good. In my group, I recently posted a keychain that I had done with kind of some yarn type work, but then I had used this as kind of a dangler on top of that. So these are really good to add some extra, and that's what I wanted to do with these wristlet keychains. Some people just like them plain. Some people like them dressed up a little bit more. I bet every one of you, I know I have done this before where I have forgotten to take that film off. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind whenever you get anything that's been laser cut, your hardwood blanks. They generally have a film on them. In fact, I would say any hardboard blank that I've gotten that's been laser cut has a film on it. So I'm just going to check the pressure. I have not done that, but it actually looks like it's going to be good for that. And then I'm going to use my tape dispenser. That is my favorite thing in the whole world. Prior to this, I did not use heat tape just because I hated the dispensers. I just couldn't find one that worked for me. And it ended up being kind of a nightmare. So with these, I'm not hugely great at finding centers. So in order to get them straight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a teeny tiny crease, and then I'm going to line them up with the top of that crease and the bottom of that crease. So obviously my center keychain hole is going to go where that is creased right there. And then I can center it just based on my little bit of, so if you see that, you just center it in the middle of your design. So I cut this 1/10 larger than the design. So this is 2 inches, and I did 2.1 was how I measured that. So I'm going to do Marines on the front and then this hoorah on the back. But we'll press all of our fronts and then we'll turn it over and press the backs. This is just a really nice, easy way to dress up your wristlets and just add a little bit extra. So I've done this with the senior wristlets. This is something that they really like. Works really, really well for that. The other thing, so this is obviously, if you want, you can add beads. There's so many things you can do to dress them up if that's the kind of clientele that you're working with. You kind of got to fill it out. I have some clientels that like them just as plain as can be. So you just kind of got to fill that out. So that is set at 385 degrees, which on my press is just around 390 to 395. My press does run hot. So like I say, in every tutorial, make sure you know your equipment, you know if it runs hot or cold, so that you are able to gauge that and make sure you're getting optimal results with that. And I do let these go the full 60 seconds. Also, something that I say in every tutorial is these are things that work for me. They've been very successful for me. That doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. They're just my views and what has worked well for me. So you guys find out what works well for you. Hopefully this gives you some idea, kind of aids you along the way to help make your business successful. So I'll show you this little token. So there's the front. We're gonna let that cool off while we get the rest of them out. That is the thing, is do get you some heat gloves because it does get super hot. Those press so pretty. So if you do like the boot design, make sure you check for in my sublimation doormats. There is a 4th of July design that has that design in it. It is one of my favorite designs that I've ever done. And of course, I want to honor our men and women in uniform. I so appreciate all that they do to keep us safe and all that they do to preserve our freedoms. So I'm going to adjust this one a little bit. That's not quite where I want that to lay. And no, your heat tape will not leave a mark on the other side. All right, you want to make sure you always have something covering your mat as well as your top platen. Your machine is an investment and you want to make sure you're taking care of it. The mat, I've had times I've forgotten to put a blowout sheet on the bottom and then it's transferred to another item. Same thing with your top platen. I don't worry so much if it's like I'm doing a doormat. I don't worry as much about putting something on the bottom, but generally I take my foam mat out when I'm doing doormats. But I don't worry about that as much with that type of a blank. Make sure you guys please throw your comments in, or your comments to let me know that you're here. Also let me know questions that you may have. I make sure if I'm not watching this live with you, then I make sure that I am following those comments really well so that I can answer any questions that you might have. Also, please share where you got this information. I would appreciate you inviting your friends to join along with us. All right, so there's the back. Just a really nice, when you see the finished product, it just adds a little bit extra. Now we're going to go ahead and move into pressing our ribbon. Get another piece of paper. The heat settings will remain the same. And I just want to, again, make sure my pressure settings are okay, and then just tighten it up just a hair. And just a reminder, because I have done this before, make sure you get the proper lanyard sublimation material. The other stuff that you get cannot withstand the heat and it will melt. So where it is a fabric, I'm going to pre-press it for about 15 seconds. Again, that just gets moisture out of the material. So anytime you're doing shirts, anything that's fabric based, you want to make sure you get the moisture out of it by pre-pressing it so that you don't get marbling, that kind of warbled look. We're going to go ahead and do all the fronts first. So what I like to do with these, I do cut these just a hair longer. And I do that because then I have some room to put it onto I have some room to put it onto my hardware and make sure, like, if I have a name that's associated with it, it's not going to cut any of that off. These one, it's not as big of a deal, but I've done a fair number of these where they have names that I'll put on the side. And so those, I don't want to cut off the name, so I like to leave myself some room to apply hardware. And these I do like to tape down just so that they don't shift. So it's worth that extra couple seconds just to make sure that you're saving yourself time in the long run. It's one of those things, hopefully my trial and error can help. I remember when I started into sublimation, I had kind of a, I followed Jeff Griffiths really, really closely because he was so talented and I so appreciated, I learned so much from him. And so hopefully my trial and error will help some of you learn and grow into your business. So with these, we're going to go 40 to 50 seconds. And then we'll turn those over and do the other side. You can find a spool of this. I can't remember. I think it's 50 feet. But you can find it on Amazon. I will include the link. It's beautiful. It sublimates beautifully, withholds the heat beautifully. It's worked very, very well for me. And you can see it sublimates beautifully. So we'll go ahead and pull these ones off, let them cool for just a second while we switch out our paper. As you can see, there's a lot of off-gassing that goes on with these, simply because it is a full bleed. And then we'll do the other side. So just so you can see, how vibrant and pretty those colors are. So on the other side, I do like to make sure that I'm lining up. I just want to make sure that that's laying nice and flat. So I'm just move that over just a hair. So I make sure it covers all of it. And then we'll go ahead and let that press for a minute. Okay, you guys, so if you haven't got one of these, you need to seriously go on to Amazon and get one. They're like 20 bucks, and they cut all these little pieces. They cut 4 pieces, and they're about an inch to an inch and a half long. It's amazing. It's so much easier to use. So go get one. Can't recommend it highly enough. I'm just looking. I just want to make sure that you guys are putting comments in. Let me know what your questions are so that I can address them and answer them. Let this go for another. There we go. I clearly am not ambidextrous because I do much better with my right hand than with my left. All right, so you can see how pretty those printed. You hurry and pull the other ones off, and then we will move back over to the work area and put them all together. All right, so you can see I have my circle rings that will go, my circle key ring that will go just kind of as an accent, and then I have my wristlets. So this is where this set of pliers comes in. And what you want to do, let me just angle you down so you can make sure you're seeing. Go ahead and open your glue, get that ready to go. And then you want to line up. So this is where it's important. That's why I try to line up when I'm pressing it, because you do want to make sure it lines up. I printed these at 16 inches so that they're 8 inches, which is a good size to hang on to. And then what you want to do is you want to glue the last about, I would say about half an inch. The reason you want to do that is because it does two things. It helps it stay together so that the hardware can grab both sides, but then it also prevents fraying. So we're just going to let that sit for a second and do the same thing with the other two. I'm doing these as a custom request from a customer. Just kind of spread it out. It doesn't need to be super thick. And then, like I said, I just like to line up the two ends so it looks a little bit neater for my finished product. And then I neglected to do so, but you will want to get a wet rag to wipe off your E6000 because it will just keep coming out of the bottle and make a huge mess. So we're going to set that out over the way so it doesn't make a huge mess in my work area. It does dry clear, so don't worry about that because it comes out as a white milky color, but it does dry clear. All right, and then we're going to just clean up the edges. And what I like to do is try to make it about as wide so that it just overhangs just a hair. So roughly just over 1/4 of an inch. And then this just slides just like that over the top. What I would suggest is you kind of get a start in bending these. You're just going to want to bend it just a little bit so that you can get that in there nice and even. This is honestly the hardest part of the whole thing, is just holding it and keeping it even while you get ready to clamp the pliers down. So I'll get it started on one side and then come over on the other side just so I can make sure that it's remaining even and I'm not getting white hanging out the sides, because that drives me absolutely crazy. And then you can finish it off, and you can feel when the teeth really sink into both pieces of fabric. And then I like to just make sure the center is really compressed so that it doesn't come out. And if you look, now I can pull on that and it's not going anywhere. So very easy. I charge $15 for these, and they sell like hotcakes in my area. I don't know why everything is backwards on this camera. It drives me nuts. But as you can see, they turn out really, really nice, and they're so easy to finish up. So then if you add this keychain to it, and then I would also add a tassel, which I did not, I neglected to bring in. But again, kind of fill out your customer. They may or may not want the extra. So they might just want the tag. They may just want the wristlet and call that good. I really like the tag on it though, I'm not gonna lie. So as you can see, that just adds a fun little extra. So you've got the front that says US, this, or says the Marines, the wristlet that says US Marines, and then the back of that says Hoorah, which is, I guess, something that the servicemen and women say to each other. So again, I thank them for their service. I'm so, so grateful for them. And we're going to do the exact same thing with the other two. So I'm going to close that just a little bit because it makes it a lot easier to deal with, so that the material doesn't slip on you and you don't end up uneven. And I've got to shout out to Roxanne for introducing me to this little device, because it's so much easier than the rubber mallet that I was using. But you can see, I just love how they turn out. They're just fun. Just an added little extra. Again, we talk a lot in the tutorials that I do, we talk a lot about setting yourself apart in this industry, because there are a lot of people in this industry, and that's okay. We each bring something. We each have our own little sparks, our own little gifts, and so that's okay. But it's about finding what makes you stand out and what you love, and going with that. Like I said, these are extremely sturdy. I have a 16-year-old that I have that uses and abuses the one I made for him, and these are very, very sturdy. So you can pull. I'm pulling really hard on it, and it's not bending at all. It's not loosening at all. and then we'll just go ahead and add the keychain. So, you know, $15 for a really, really quick, that didn't take hardly any time at all. 35 minutes, and I made 3 of these. And that's with doing the tutorial and talking things through, so it's even less time when you're just hurrying pushing them out. So a really easy way to kind of one of those grab and go gifts that are just fun, simple to make. Add a tassel to it. If you want, for girls type things, you can add beads. Lots of ways to dress these up, but they look really, really nice. So hopefully that gives you some ideas, and please share them in the group because I love to see what you guys create. And just a reminder, make sure you let me know you're here, and we will see you next time on Tutorial Tuesdays, which air every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Have a great night.